now going to dive into a topic that touches all of us: how to create a joyful career journey. And who better to guide us than the brilliant Marcia Wall? With over 20 years of experience coaching individuals to live their best professional lives, Marcia blends strategy with soul. She's a global career development facilitator. That's a lot of words. Certified career services provider. Girl, with my Latin tongue, you give me all these titles, and holds a master's in rhetoric and the teaching of writing. Okay, I'm exhausted now. Her approach is not only holistic and strategic, but deeply rooted in diversity, equity, and inclusion. Whether you're in a career transition, feeling unfulfilled at work, or just curious about how to align your profession with your purpose, this conversation is for you. So let's bring up Marcia Wall to the virtual stage. Hi, Marcia.
Hi, how are you, Grace?
I am good. I'm good. I can't believe I'm still talking. I have a voice.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. And of course, now we have a little bit of a low internet. So guys, let me know in the comments if it's streaming okay or not. I would appreciate that. So let's start with just the basics. Like, what does a joyful career mean to you personally?
Well, I will start off by saying that I think joy is our birthright. And when I'm coaching clients, I really encourage them to think about the lives that they want to lead and then find a career that fits into that rather than choosing a career because they think it's the right thing to do.
Yes. Somebody's telling me we're frozen. I don't know. I'm getting text messages and stuff. It's so exhausting. I don't know. I think my connection is unstable. I'm sorry, Marcia, but how about now, Carlos? Am I okay? Or can you check for me? Yeah, let's check before we continue because I want to make sure we have good connection.
Thank you.
And I do have an Ethernet cable and everything. So I don't know. Today it's been, I don't know, Mercury, it's still frozen. You know, it's not frozen on my phone for some reason. It's so weird. Oh, I see. Yeah, it's frozen now. Yep. So, okay. So it's frozen, Marcia. I don't know what to do.
Well, we can, I think we have wonderful things to say. We can still speak. That's fine.
But it's not going to stream and it's not going to tape. That's the only problem.
Oh.
Yeah. We're frozen. I'm back. Okay, we're back. Jeez. Okay. Are we back okay, Carlos? Or kind of icky? It's still a little bit. Yeah, the connection's unstable on my end. Pixelated. Yeah, lovely. I love being pixelated. That's good. It can hide my lines. But how about the okay, we can hear you fine, Pat. I know, but on the stream, it's different. Okay. Okay, I see that we're moving now. Okay, we'll continue. All right, so let me ask you the question again for those who saw me frozen. What is this? If you put her as the main, it could work. I don't know what that means. My co-host is also a tech guy, so he's guiding me through it, but I don't know what he means. I'm good. All right, so what does a joyful career mean to you personally?
Well, I will start off by saying that I think joy is our birthright. And so when I'm working with clients, I really encourage them to think first and foremost about the lives that they want to lead, and then figure out how to make their careers be in service of that life rather than living to work, right? I think that we should work to live and not live to work.
Exactly. Absolutely. But we're kind of conditioned to, work and not take care of ourselves, right? And self-care is so important, and having fun in life in general. So another thing that's important is aligning with your goals, aligning your career with your personal life goals, right? How can people do that, and why is it important to do that?
I think first you need to do a self-inventory, and that could be spiritual, that could be professional, that could be mental, emotional. Find out, what do you value? What are you good at? What brings you joy? Where do you feel like you're in alignment and in your zone of genius? And take that and then find out, where in the marketplace then can I be of service? what I tell people is don't necessarily strive for success, right? Going for job
Yeah.
titles, going for promotions. I think if you understand your own higher purpose and then use that in service of others, you're going to be able to carve a career that is really meaningful to you. And, like your last guest was saying, we're all one, right? And
Yes.
so in our careers, if we can be of service to others, then we're really contributing, con meaning with, and tribute meaning like a tributary. We're contributing to the greater good.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm sorry, I'm still like going back and forth because still I'm pixelated, which again is a blessing. Thank you. Thank you, universe. Pixelate away. So how can someone start imagining the life they want if they feel stuck?
If they feel stuck, I want to tell you the story of a gentleman who was 102. I went to his funeral.
Wow.
And I knew him. Yeah, he was 102 when he passed away. And I went to his funeral and I knew him from church. And I always knew him as this really sweet old man, looked really dapper in his usher uniform. He'd worked at the post office. And I just thought, oh, he had a nice life. And I may even cry about this because I cry every time I think about this story. When I heard his obituary, I realized that his postal job was his job, but his real career was his life's work as a civil rights activist in the Jim Crow South. So what that really drove home for me, Grace, is that our career is our path and our job is what we make money at. And sometimes those will overlap. Sometimes they don't overlap at all. And sometimes they intersect slightly. So again, I think if you are tuned into really how you can be of service and do what resonates with you, you're going to find your path.
Absolutely. If you know your purpose too, right? What is your purpose? And if you can find, right, if you can find a career and a job also that aligns with that, that's perfect. And anything can align with your purpose, really.
Yes. No, that is so true. I work a lot with my clients on defining their visions and their missions. And what I tell people is a vision is a noun. It's the thing that you want to see in the world. I want world peace. World peace is the vision. Are you going to achieve it? Probably not on your own. And maybe we might not ever achieve it, right? But it's the thing that we're working towards. And the mission is the verb. The mission is how do you do that? And I think I was pursuing my mission and vision all along, but it wasn't until about my 40s when I was able to articulate that. And I realized that I wanted to see a world transformed. And so whether I've been a kindergarten teacher, stand-up comedian, photographer, you know me, I've probably had about 20 jobs over the course of my career. I'm always in a role where I'm helping people to either have a transformative experience or to see themselves in a new way so that they can move on in the world more authentically themselves.
Yes. And what is the biggest misconception people have about finding their purpose?
That's a great question. That they have to know it at any one given time, that it's a destination, that it's actually something you can find. Where I think if you know your North Star, if you know what you believe in, what your skills are, again, if you're in your zone of genius, your moment of power, and you're doing the things that matter to you, and you really listen to yourself. Yes, I want to continue doing this, or no, this part of the job I don't like, but this part of the job that I do. And I think slowly over time, you naturally create that, right? Kind of almost like a sine wave, right? To sort of bring math into it. I'm a secret math geek. But I don't think it's something that we can set out and say, today I'm going to find my purpose. I think it's about living in the moment, getting to know who we are, and proceeding in service of others. And I think that your purpose will find you.
I agree. And it's a matter also of maturing into it. But I think like nowadays, like younger people find their purpose a little faster because of everything that's available, all the tools that are available, like ChatGPT, TikTok. They learn from TikTok and social media and all of that. So I think that they find their purpose sooner than what our generation did. We had to
Well,
go through a little bit of a harder path.
I
So
don't know if I would agree with that, Grace.
really?
What
Okay,
I
tell me.
well, what I do think is that younger people are, and I'm specifically thinking about really young millennials or Gen Zs, that they feel
Yes.
really confident in expressing what they think to be their purpose is. And I'm not saying that they don't know themselves or they aren't able to articulate a vision of some kind, but I think it's true for all of us that as we move forward in life, we
Mhm.
mature, we refine. But I do think there is, with the advent of social media where everyone can have a platform like us, thank goodness.
Yes.
I think that Gen Z especially feels like they can promote their message for the whole world to see and feel really confident about that, especially if they're getting a lot of likes. But I don't think that necessarily means that they have arrived somehow any sooner to self-realization.
Okay. All right. We can agree to disagree.
You can, absolutely.
Yeah, because I work with a lot of kids, and some of the kids are like, I'm like, where did you get that knowledge from? Like, I think they come smarter or something. I don't know. It's weird. Or maybe I forgot how smart we were when we were little. I don't know. Maybe I wasn't
I think
aware.
that's it, Grace. I think we forgot how
Probably.
smart we were. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe that's what it is. It's been a long time since I was little. So, what steps should someone take to assess their skills, strengths, and passions in their life?
So there's several ways to do it. There are some formal assessments that you can take online. However, interpreting assessments is really a learned skill and is often best done with someone who is trained to interpret those. But I think you can start by looking at your resume, thinking back on the things that you've already done that particularly bring you joy. And then I give
Hmm.
my clients something called the reflected best self exercise. And it's a
Okay.
list of 20 questions that you give other people, but you have to give people that you trust, right? Not toxic people, not the people who
Yes.
are telling you, no, don't do that, right? Um,
Yes.
but people you can really trust for feedback, to say things like, when have you seen me at my best? When do you see me light up?
Yes.
When do you see me happiest? Right? And getting that 360 view can be really it can be really instrumental in getting a full picture of yourself. There's some great books out there too. So there's lots of good resources out there, but it is fundamentally about tuning into what's already working for you
Yes. Yes.
and not focusing on the negative. Focus on the positive, like so many of your guests have said.
Absolutely. So apparently I'm not coming through. I'm coming through pixelated still, but you're coming through okay. Carlos is saying, and that's all that matters. So hang in there, guys. I'm sorry about the quality of my side. There's nothing I can do. If I leave the stream, this is gonna be no more stream. What steps should someone take? No, wait, I already asked you that. I'm sorry, I'm distracted. I'm like all over, girl. No, I'm telling you, it's like, and it's been a long day too.
There's no such
So
thing as failure. There's only data collection. So
yeah, well,
this
I'm
is just an
collecting
opportunity to
data
learn
about.
more.
You know what? I'm collecting data about a spectrum. It's not very reliable, you guys. So, and it's the only one available in my area. So, collecting data. But anyway, zen and breathe and change it into a positive. They can see Marcia. It's all that matters. So, are there any specific tools or assessments that you recommend for self inventory? Like,
Yes, the I really like SkillScan, which
okay,
is available online. It's $15.95. It's really low entry level. ONET, which is funded by the government, at least for now.
okay,
Just ONET. I don't know if it's .gov or .com, but if you type in ONET careers, it'll pop up. They have a lot
okay,
of good free assessments on there. My Next Move is another one. And you can also just, go into any web browser. Actually, ChatGPT, I call it the G. You can go onto the G and say, please give me the top 5 assessments for personality quizzes, or
Okay.
please give me the top 5 assessments for values. There's a lot of good ones out there. So it doesn't hurt to take a look at some of those and ideas, but I really caution people that assessments are not diagnostic. They're not meant to tell us who we are. They're really just, especially if you're working with a coach or someone you can talk with about these things, they're tools to start the conversation about who you are and what you're good at, but no test is going to give you the answers.
Yeah, that's true. You have to know it in your heart, kind of, right? Yeah, definitely. What are some red flags that a job doesn't align with who you are?
That's a great question. I'm trying to think about that. Well, I will, this is coming from the more comedian side of me. You'll often see job listings that say, we're looking for a unicorn. Well, you know what? Unicorns don't exist. So if someone's looking for a unicorn, no, I'm serious.
Yeah.
I'm dead serious. Or they say, we want a rock star. And I'm thinking, you're probably not offering rock star pay and benefits. So don't ask me to be a rock star, right?
That's true.
Usually if something says, fast-paced environment where things change every day, that may work for some people, but for most people, that's going to be crazy making. Someone identifies themselves, and I can't make this up, Grace, as a purple squirrel hunter. That is a purple squirrel hunter. I can't even say it. That's a recruiter who is on the lookout for a unicorn. Purple squirrel hunters look for unicorns.
That's what it is. That is hysterical. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
That's too funny.
I think the other thing too, I will just say one last thing about that, Grace. If a job description goes on and on and on and on and on, and you can't determine what they actually want you to do, then that's a good bet that they don't know what they want either. I would also say that many times people who write the job descriptions aren't actually the people hiring. So the job description may not be reflective. So to that end, and sometimes they're written by AI. To that end, if you really have your sights set on a company or organization, if you're networking like your life depends on it, and if you're really clear on what it is that you want, then you're going to find the right opportunities are going to come to you instead of you having to chase the right opportunities. It's all about the law of attraction.
Absolutely. So what advice do you have for mid-career professionals looking to pivot, to change?
Well, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I think, it always comes down to knowing who you are, right? But when people are pivoting, they all of a sudden get imposter syndrome. And I work with a lot of transitioning teachers, especially those who've been teaching for maybe 20 years or so. And they'll say things like, well, I'm only a teacher, or I've just been a teacher. And what I tell people is that may have been your job title, but that's not necessarily the only thing that you were doing. And when we evaluate their backgrounds, we can see that they did things that required skills in project management, in user design, in administration, in training and development, data analytics, event planning, right? We can come up with maybe 10, 15, 20 things that they did as just a teacher, and then learn how to pivot those to a new career. So I think what I tell people is, and it's the metaphor of a camera, and I don't know if this will work anymore because most people don't actually use cameras with lenses.
Right.
But don't think of yourself as a teacher. Think of yourself as someone who's done these things, and you just happen to do it in the role of XYZ. And now you can move to another role and continue to do the same things. I think about a client who was a private investigator and then became a baker.
Yes.
And she goes, it's not really that different. You're researching information. You're understanding what people need. You're working quickly, to meet their demands. And sometimes you have to be patient, right? So what you're looking for is the story. You're looking for the through line. And if you know your own personal story and your professional story, then you can sell that story to anyone that you want to hear it.
Yes. And also networking. Let's talk about networking and building community. What's your take on building a tribe professionally?
I think that first of all, you have to lead as your authentic self in every situation, because if you're not authentic in your interactions with people, you're going to attract the wrong people. I did a podcast once on a concept called coddywampling, and it's the idea that you just have to go out there and do stuff and lead with your heart, and the right things will come to you. And I know that sounds very woo-woo, and it is woo-woo, but it's also very practical in that networking doesn't happen by accident. You do things like this. You do things like go to a conference, you go to a party, you volunteer somewhere, you go to a book signing, you take, you go to a party with someone, you go to a gala, right? You're out there in the world being your authentic self. And when you do, you're going to attract the right kinds of people to you. I'll give you a quick, can I share a quick story about that? I just had a...
Please do, absolutely.
So one of my manifestations is that I work as a program manager for an organization out of Orange County, California called Claire's Place Foundation. And we serve people with cystic fibrosis who are looking for careers. We also provide other services, but my role is in our work program. And so I already had several people that I thought I could bring on as volunteers, but I did put out into the LinkedIn universe looking for a volunteer. And this man approached me and we decided to have a meeting. And as soon as he came on the screen, I knew he was my kind of people. And I could just tell that he was going to be the right kind of person. And then I found out, Grace, when I was telling him my story, how I had survived Hurricane Katrina, he said, "Me too." And I said, "What? You lived in New Orleans?" And he goes, "Yes, I went to such and such university." And I said, "Oh, well, the church that I go to is affiliated with that." And he said, "Do you know so-and-so?" And I said, "Of course I know that guy." And it turns out that we had several people in common. So just by putting it out there, what I was really looking for, I'm not only attracting the right people, right?
Yes.
I'm attracting the people that are already in my tribe and I didn't even know.
100%. Your vibe attracts your tribe, period, right?
Absolutely.
And but there's people who are introverts and like they like to stay home. So how can introverts or those with social anxiety build a strong network?
That is a great question. So one of the things that I would say, and we'll get to online networking in a minute, which can really work for introverts. If you are an introvert, and like I was at a event at the Biltmore in Los Angeles recently, and there was a young woman there, and I could kind of tell she was an introvert. And so I started talking to her, and we had a great time. And at the end of it, I said, "You know what? When you're going to an event, find one person that can be your wingman, your wing woman, your wing person, and then go with them to get introduced to other people. Let them do the heavy lifting for you," right?
Yes.
Or if you're unsure about what you're supposed to do at a networking event, go in with one or two goals. You know what? My goal today is to get 2 business cards. Or you know what? My goal today is to talk to 2 people. Or my goal is to visit 3 tables at this career fair. So if you have a small goal, right, it feels like you can accomplish that. And then once you accomplish that, you're emboldened to do even more.
Absolutely. In other segments, we were talking about celebrate the small wins and go step by step. Don't expect to do, to reach the goal in like an hour. Just be realistic about it, right?
No. Yeah. And I do think being active online, particularly, I would say in most cases on LinkedIn, but for creatives, we might be looking at other platforms. But being active online, posting things that you care about, reposting, commenting, joining groups, attending classes online and meeting new people. Those are really great ways for introverts. And look, we all have introverted days, right? One of your guests was talking about being masculine and feminine. we're all have our introverted days and our extroverted days, some just more than
Yes.
others, right? But networking online can really be to the benefit of introverts.
Yes, absolutely. And just a sidebar, I'm frozen right now, so I don't just smile like that. It's like so just letting you know, guys, I'm having internet issues, Wi-Fi issues. So I'm gonna freeze at times. Marcia is the one that matters in this interview, so she's coming through fine. That's all I care about. So how can one create a community around their career values and goals?
Create a community around their careers, values, and I feel like I'm being interviewed for a job, and then I need to come up with the right answers in order to get hired.
You do. There's no right or wrong, girl. You just go with the flow.
Well, I think it's about, first of all, if you're joyful at work and if you are engaged in projects that are meaningful to you, then you're going to find those people. And in many ways, it starts with choosing an organization or a company whose values you align with. Do you remember Dr. Bronner's? They have those hippie soaps and body washes and toothpaste. Are you familiar with their brand?
Oh, yeah. Remember
Yeah.
when I went to San Diego? Yeah, that's what they were giving away. Yes.
Yes. And so when I found out they were headquartered in San Diego, where I live part-time, I was like, if I wanted a job, which I don't, but if I wanted a job, I would love to work for Dr. Bronner's. I don't really care what my job title would be. I like their mission, their vision. I like their values. I like the way they treat people, and I believe in their product. So oftentimes people are looking for a job title,
Yes.
when many times it's more important to find a company that you can believe in and then create your job once you're there. Now, having said that, we know that there's narcissistic people in the world, right, Grace?
Yeah. Yes, we do.
And there's also narcissistic companies. I've, was hired at some place that I thought, oh, this is the dream. I love their values. I love everything that we're doing. And the more that I got into that company, I realized, wow, it's kind of like an abusive lover. Like they really wooed me at the beginning and they gave me all these things. And the further I went in to the company, the more I realized this really wasn't a place that I wanted to be. And here's the thing. You can leave a narcissistic lover and you can leave a narcissistic and toxic environment and your life's not going to come to an end. Do not feel like you won't be valued someplace else.
100%. And this leads me to the next question, which is how do we keep the joy alive during tough times, like layoffs or rejection?
Well, I don't think there's rejection. I only think there's redirection.
I think about
that. I think about the many times, one of your earlier guests was talking about trauma. And in the early part of my career, I had a lot of career trauma. There were a lot of things going on in my life that were beyond my control. And it really took me a while to get my footing. And, sometimes I would quit or the job would be too stressful or they didn't want me back. And I felt like I was a failure at times, to be honest, especially in my early 20s.
Yeah.
And I just kept trying and trying and trying. And the more that I tried and the more that I listened to what would really work for me, that's really where I found my joy. So, when you're laid off, I did a workshop on how to recession-proof your career.
Yes.
And it's really the things that you need to be doing all the time, which is upskilling, keeping your health, maintaining your health, attending conferences and networking, right? Trying a new skill, having a side hustle, learning a new hobby, learning a new language, maintaining your resume, keeping your online presence where it should be. What I tell people is that I loved the Olympics in 2024, especially track and field. And you would see these people who would run races in just seconds to win their race. And I tell my clients, they didn't win that race because they practiced the night before.
Right.
They won that race because they've been practicing their entire lives. Even if they didn't win, they were in the Olympics, right?
Yes, exactly.
Right? They made it to the Olympics because they've been practicing their whole lives. And so I think the people who end up doing really well in their careers, and look, sometimes there's just dumb luck, right?
Yes.
But I think we also create our luck. We give ourselves a fighting chance. Some people say God helps those who help themselves. Whatever phrase you want to use, it's the same thing. Are you learning? Are you networking? Are you understanding who you are? Are you in volunteering? That's a great way to network, by the way. Networking has volunteering has fueled my career. Are you
really?
Oh, absolutely. They say, and I don't know who they are, but they say for freelancers like ourselves that if you really look, especially for career coaches, that if you really think about it, every single paying client that you have, you can trace back to something that you did for free.
Oh, that's true, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. But look, I'm not here to say that we shouldn't charge what we're worth or that, we have to, but I guess to go back and answer your original question, you need to be acting at all times like you may not have a job tomorrow.
Yeah.
And many of my clients in Washington, D.C. are facing that, even though they're not in the federal government. They serviced organizations that were related to the federal government. And, one just lost his job overnight. I see it all the time that people lose their jobs and they spend so much loyalty to an employer and don't take care of their own career wheelhouse and don't place enough emphasis on developing their own careers that when they lose a job, there's a sense of desperation. And I'm like, well, when's the last time you updated your resume? Last time I needed a job. I was like, well, that was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to help, and I'm a really good resume writer, right? It's that degree in rhetoric, but I can't work miracles. So what we all need to do every day is treat our lives like they're miracles, and nurture those little miracles, nurture those points of light. I feel like George Bush now, right? Nurture those little points of light, and then your life will always be lit.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Marcia, for being here and putting up with all these crazy technical insanity, it says. But, what you taught us is that your career isn't just about a paycheck. It's about purpose, presence, and personal fulfillment. And as you so beautifully remind us, joy isn't a destination. It's a mindset that we can carry into our work every single day. So take that inventory, follow what lights you up, and trust that your joyful journey is already unfolding. Because when you lead with joy, the work follows. All right. Thank you so much,
Absolutely.
Marcia.